Canada is famously known for being one of the most welcoming countries and one of the easiest places in the world to build a new life. For decades, international students and skilled workers arrived with a clear plan: study, get a job, gain experience, and eventually stay. But that pathway is shifting. And now the question isn't just who Canada can attract, it's who it can keep.
Canada's built much of its tech sector on immigration, and the numbers show that immigrants now make up a quarter of the country's workforce, and in technical fields, their role is even bigger. More than 40% of engineers and roughly 1 in 3 programmers in Canada were born outside of the country. But today, the system that helped bring them is becoming harder to navigate. During the pandemic, Canada extended post-graduation work permits so international students could stay longer. But according to immigration lawyer Paola Mello, what happened next wasn't fully planned.
But I feel like there was no contingency in what are we going to do with people afterwards, especially with international students.
As housing, healthcare, and infrastructure pressures mounted, immigration policies quickly tightened.
That suddenly they were like, okay, everybody needs to get out.
For many people who had already built lives in Canada, the rules started shifting beneath their feet, including changes to the postgraduate work permit, which was once seen as a reliable way to enter the workforce on a path to permanent residency in Canada.
They've been building a life here for 5-6 years, and suddenly the government is like, the points are through the roof and nobody can transition.
Canada's main immigration pathway is referred to as express entry, and it ranks candidates on a points-based system, starting with age, education, language ability, and work experience. The government has also introduced category-based selections, including STEM category designed to prioritize workers in the tech industry. But even for skilled candidates, there is one factor that can dramatically affect someone's chances.
That basically, once you start hitting 35, you significantly start losing points. Pretty much when you're 45, you're at 0.
That uncertainty isn't just affecting immigrants. Recruiters like Federico Spragon says it's increasingly complicating hiring decisions for companies across Canada, especially when candidates waiting for permanent residency fall into what he calls a limbo known as implied status.
And that also have first implications in terms from a personal perspective. I think you have to call and say, hey, Eric, I'm sorry, you are no longer working with us. You have to leave the country in 2 weeks by path. I think it's very insensitive. So first is that human side, but also it's affecting, the clients, right? Because the clients, hire you for 2 years project or whatever, and they train you and everything. And now all of a sudden I have to go back and say, well, you know what? Eric unfortunately has to leave the country because, his visa was revoked.
For founders like Bertrand Numbo, who arrived in Montreal from France as a student and now runs an AI startup in the French-Canadian city, the changes are already affecting how Canadian companies hire talent. Nearly 40% of his team are immigrants, something he says is simply normal in Canada's tech ecosystem.
I've changed the hiring policy because of that. I can't be spending hours and thousands in legal fees to figure out the immigration process for an employee.
With these recent changes, companies have to be more selective of who they hire.
You want to keep, your closed work permits pretty tight in the sense that, there's a quota.
There is no doubt that Canada still attracts global talent, but new research suggests the country may be struggling with something harder: retention. Highly educated immigrants are now leaving at nearly twice the rate of other newcomers. And for an economy built on global talent, this is impacting its future growth in industries like tech and AI. So the real test now is creating a system that convinces those highly skilled workers to stay.